one and only Maria Heller, and welcome to another edition of Conversations with Supernatural Kids. How you doing, Maria?
I'm doing great. It's good to see you, Joe.
Same here, same here. It's Mac to Mac today, not PC to Mac.
I know that makes me very happy, gives me joy in my heart.
Nice, and
So I got a really cute little gift last night. I'll show it to you. Hold
all
on.
right, go ahead.
Because my friends know that I'm a psycho for Apple products.
Uh-huh.
Here's the gift I got. It's a little
Nice.
Steve Jobs. Look
Oh,
how cute.
sweet, sweet, fantastic.
So I'm
But
like, cool.
today we've also got a special guest.
Yes, we
That
do.
young
We
man
have
sitting
this
behind you.
fabulous, yes, this fabulous young man, Nathan.
Nathan, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Joe. How about you?
Great, great. I'm glad you decided to come on and talk about some of your experiences. As you know, the show is called Supernatural Kids, and I understand that you're one of them, you know? And so if you can, tell us a little bit about your background and how you started to see and sense and realize that this world is really something interesting.
Interesting. That is an interesting way to put it. But well, it started out. There wasn't really a starting point except for when I was born. Really, I mean, it started out with me always feeling inexplicably far away from everyone else surrounding me, family, everyone, and it only got more and more like that as I grew older. So after that, I kind of Well, during that time, really, I had a bunch of different strange experiences, dreams, everything. I first of all dreamt of my grandfather getting cancer, which I've never really told anyone about,
Mhm.
but about a week later, he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer in most of his body.
Wow.
And after that, when he passed, I had a dream about a week after that of him being on the back patio and telling me it's okay and he's not gonna be gone ever.
Mhm.
How did that make you feel?
I'm a lot stronger, and I never really got the whole 5 stages of death after that because I never really thought he was dead.
Mhm.
Because he came to say goodbye and let you
Yeah.
know that you were okay, and
He
that
said-
happens a lot.
He
Yeah.
said goodbye.
That's
That
wonderful.
countered the 5 stages.
By the way, just let me ask, how old are you?
I'm turning 16 at the end of this month.
Wonderful, fantastic. And you know, this is not uncommon. My father passed away about 9 months ago, and my grandmother came to me. And so it's very common for loved ones and relatives to show up prior to someone crossing over. It's like the welcoming committee on the other side. You know, they're like, okay, come on over. You know, it's your time to come over. Don't be afraid. This is home.
Right.
know?
Well, Joe, the interesting thing is pets do the same thing. I remember several years ago getting a call from my granddaughter. They were living in Mexico at the time. And she was all happy and just being a kid. And about a half hour later, she called me hysterical crying, and I couldn't understand. I was like, what happened in a half hour? And they had lost their little dog, Spike. And she said she had gone in the shower, and all of a sudden, Spike was in the shower with her, smiling at her.
Wow.
And she said to me, how come no one else sees him? I was the only one that saw him. And I said, because he came to you because he knew you could see him. And the fact he was smiling was his way of letting you know that he was okay.
That's right. Absolutely. So, Nathan, how far have you gotten into sort of discovering the abilities that we all seem to have? And you know, have you researched some of this stuff? Have you questioned it? Have you read about any of this? I know you're with a great teacher right there.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I've been researching it a lot actually.
Mhm.
From a very young age. When I was about 7, I started getting really into pagan things, everything to do with nature, and realizing that we're not supposed to be worshiping some one huge deity. We're supposed to be connecting with everything around us. So when I was about 7, I started realizing that, and from then on, it just kept growing. I visited occult shops, everything, and
Mhm.
just recently, actually, I've been kind of walking on the hot coals of self-acceptance, to put it proverbially,
Sure.
and that all has been one huge path, really, to finding things about myself and realizing all of this.
That's fantastic.
And then I tripped across him in the
Yeah.
Imagine that. Yeah.
in the back of my hairdresser's salon. He was hanging out with his friends, and we started talking, and all I could see was this kid's light. And just listen, you're speaking to someone who's 15. Listen to how he speaks and how he talks.
Sure.
And all I saw was light.
Mm-hmm.
And we started chit-chatting, and he got his first level of Reiki with me. Sunday on the solstice, he'll get his second level. And the change, I mean, is noticeable. Everyone around him has noticed the change.
Fantastic. That's great. It's wonderful that you found a teacher at that age, because many of us, like for me, I was looking at an early age, but I could never find answers. Because I had the same thing that you're having, the premonitions, the visions, the experiences that I just thought were, just my imagination at that time. And I was looking and looking and looking. I could never find answers until my late 20s. Then I began to realize, whoa, wait a second, if I look in the right places, I begin to find the answers. So you're getting the kind of accelerated course with Maria there.
Lucky him, I
Yeah.
contacted him. Listen, you know the town I live in. It's a very small, dark space,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a gorgeous place, except for the people. And when I see that kind of light, which now I've seen twice, which is amazing,
Yeah.
I have to give them what I have. It's just a natural thing, because you don't see that kind of life force that often.
Absolutely.
But listen to your story, Joe. When I was a kid, trust me, I got a few years on you.
Yeah.
There was nobody to go to.
Mhm.
I mean, I had absolutely no one that I could talk to and relate to with the experiences and the vision and what I knew. I just intuitively knew. So I had to struggle my whole life to put it all together. And that's part of why we're doing the show. So young people like him and so many others don't feel alone. And that's why I also want to mention for our next show, if you're watching this on YouTube, send us an email. That's all you have to do. First name, your age. If you want to tell us what country you're in, great. You want to tell us what your experiences are or any questions, and we will field those here on the show, and then we'll upload it to YouTube. We can't make it any easier than that.
Absolutely. We want to reach as many people as possible. And Nathan, you're sharing a wonderful experience here. And you're getting a lot of knowledge and wisdom as sort of an accelerated course, because your whole generation has to, And so, and I've said this on Maria's show and many other places, what we've got right now is a transformation that's taking place on this planet, and it's an energetic one. And so your generation, the ones after you, are really not going to fit in, because the entire world you guys are going to see it in a completely different way. In other words, you're not going to embrace, the financial system. You're not going to embrace the silly laws and the ridiculous governments that we have around the world. Your generation is here to bring the planet back to some sort of normal environment, and be more conscious of it. So, and that would be my suggestion to you and many of the people listening. Get in touch with nature. Just walk around quietly without the iPods and the other things, and just be at one with the source, because it's already in you. And so just embrace that and try and access information as you're getting in tune with this energy, this source. And you'll begin to see more and more and feel more and more every time you do it. And then if you want to start jotting it down, that's another story. But your whole generation is just like more accelerated. Their abilities to learn are just there, and they're much more vivid, and they're much more. It's like you guys have greater access to more channels. Let's put it that way.
Right. You're really hyphenate the words super and natural.
So I got to ask, Nathan, have you talked to your parents about this stuff, or your siblings, if you have any?
Well, I've talked to my grandmother about it a bit. She's the only real adult figure in my life.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But she sort of understands it all. We've talked enough to the point where she's beginning to see things how I see it and realize a lot.
Right.
And through that, we bonded a lot over it, actually. So
Wonderful.
she's embraced it, which I'm very
Yes.
glad, because not all parents would.
No, and I have his grandmother's permission to adopt
Fantastic.
him and bring him
That's
up to
fantastic.
speed. But you know, one of the interesting things, and one of the things that you said to me when we first met, which showed me the commonality of so many people, and not just young people, because I think I told you, Joe, I had a client this week who was 41 and feels the same way, is when he was talking to me, some of the earliest things he said was how he had these feelings of being all alone and no one he could talk to.
Welcome to the club, Nathan. Well, listen, you've got to understand that being alone is how we connect with the source. So don't feel lonely. Being alone is actually a good thing because I've spent a lot of time by myself, and I'm sure Maria has as well. All highly evolved spiritual beings have to spend time by themselves. This is how we connect. You see, if we're interrupted or spending too much time focusing on other things or social matters and so on, we're easily distracted. And then, we're not getting that clear message back and forth. And so don't feel alone. Being by yourself is okay. I mean, then when you go and need to socialize, by all means. But, I suggest to everyone, because I do this myself, I live in Sedona, so for about 15, 20 minutes a day in the morning, I just quietly sit. Don't think about anything. Don't be, you're just coming awake. And what happens is you're trying to tune into your higher consciousness because you're still half asleep in a sense. You're trying to wake up. And so if you do that every day, you'll never really feel alone. And of course, meditation is very important. And I don't know if Maria gave you some meditation suggestions. But I have one that, if you don't mind, I'd like to share it with him, Maria.
Share away.
I'm putting this out to everywhere, and I've included in my newsletter. I just say to myself, I'm going to enjoy all the experiences in my life. I realize I am a spiritual being having a human experience. I will do the best that I can, and everything will work itself out as it always does. Does that make any sense to you, Nathan?
Of course it does, yes.
Okay.
And in fact, I'd also like to say that's very good advice you gave, and what I really hope is that everyone watching can take that advice as well, because I can learn from it, but I recognize that people like me have very big egos, to all of you. So the key thing is acknowledging that ego and letting go of it and listening to all of that advice that was just given and from other people in your life.
Right, as my friend Will Thomas down in Florida taught me a long time ago, and he's, I forget which tribe he's with, Will Davis actually, but he's the guy that leads all their dances when they have their dances and whatnot. And he said, if your ego is not your amigo, get rid of it.
Nice. Okay, that makes sense. That makes total sense. You got to realize, Nathan, what the ego is it's a self-protection mechanism. And that's that's the fight mechanism. That's if you're in danger, the ego comes out to exert itself. You know what I'm saying? To protect you. And so it's also found, when people are doubtful of themselves or not sure. So you just got to realize you got to keep it in check, because that's what the meditation's for. When you say I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, you're rising sort of above it. And you're saying, I'm not my ego. I'm not my body. I'm not what I have. I am this being of light having an experience. You see?
Absolutely. Or as David Icke says, I'm infinite awareness experiencing.
Exactly. Beautiful.
I'm David Icke. I'm not Maria Heller. I'm just infinite awareness, just puppeting around our little avatars through this holographic universe.
Exactly. So at what age, Nathan, did you start, having the visions or the dreams? Because it's very common between 2 and 13, I would say, maybe 10, to have incredible imagination, friends, spiritual guides, all of that stuff. At what age did it start for you? Was it about 7 or was it earlier?
It was about when I was born, actually. I've never not had these experiences.
Nice. I watched that movie Awake, the story of Yogananda, and it opens up and he says, I remember being inside my mother's womb, moving around, thrashing about.
Hi, could you imagine that?
Yeah.
Talk about feeling trapped and super small.
Exactly. But listen, like I said, don't feel lonely. Don't feel, don't feel like you're different, because being more aware and awake and more sensitive, it's like you're on overload. It's like your senses are on overload, and so it makes you feel a little unusual. Okay, and
Almost
so
like an anomaly.
right, exactly. That's normal. That
It's
is
so good, but think about it. If everybody in this world is normal, be glad to be different.
right. Have you ever had conversations with your friends or others where you could almost read their minds and you sense what they're going to say before they say it?
Yes, I'm very intuitive if that's what you're asking.
Yes, exactly. And that's very common as well. I mean, I've noticed that the generations seem to stick together because it's almost like they're on the same wavelength. You know, and I'm going to do a presentation at some point because I'm a professional astrologer about the generations and how each generation, the way they click and interact with each other. Your generation happens to be about knowledge. You know, you guys came here to learn and to teach about the higher realms of consciousness, awareness, sensitivity, you know, just not fitting in. You see?
And I think that's why they can so easily see everything that's wrong with our society.
Sure.
And you look at the millennials, and you look at how they're taking a stand, even politically this year. 17-year-olds are voting. I mean, that's unheard of, Joe. And they can see all the problems in the world. They know materialism and capitalism and all the isms have to go. They certainly don't serve the people nor take care of the planet.
Absolutely.
So they are an extremely unique soul group without question of a doubt.
Right. And that's why we started this program. When I realized that, people born after 1990, not that other generations are not as important, but the ones after 1990, in astrology, these are the Pluto and Sagittarius generation. Now, Sagittarius is all about knowledge, wisdom, higher learning, higher purpose, you see, higher realms of consciousness. Nathan, are you aware that we live in multi-dimensions simultaneously?
Yes, I am. In fact, when lucid and vivid dreaming, I have been in some of the said dimensions, so I know very well what you're talking about.
Excellent. And if you don't mind sharing, have you seen other beings of light there, or spirit guides, or messages that you might have received during those visits?
Well, there are two things that pop out when you talk about that. Number one, something that Maria told me about and kind of shed some light on was the mud people, which is kind of a strange term to me, but I've had very strange recurring dreams about people made of mud with the faces of children and elderly people chasing me and hunting me down, and whenever I'm in these dreams, it's like I'm trapped in amber. Okay. And then I've had other dreams where I'm surrounded by faces of teenagers I don't know, but we're always exploring this huge forest where the trees alone are as big as this planet. So it's always a different adventure in those ones, but it's always people I don't know in this life.
You don't know here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, 'cause I have that a lot. I know when I'm dreaming, I know all those people, but I also know they're not here in this dimension. And, my luck, Joe, I'm working on the other side too, even when I'm sleeping. So I guess it's good I sleep alone so nobody else has to hear my sermons going on all night.
Yeah. That last part that you mentioned about the people, the other, teenagers being around you, that's a very common dream. Remember we heard that one before, Maria? Where you're sort of astral projecting out of your body and you come into contact with other beings that are on your level. And so that one's very common.
I also had a young indigo tell me that in the dream space she would meet up with other indigos that are on this planet.
Right.
So, the dream space is a very powerful place because it's really the only time your soul is free. You're not trapped in your little body like you are, while you're awake.
Exactly. The first one was very interesting, thinking about the mud people and all that. I mean, mud usually, not being able to move through mud is usually about not being able to move through life, moving forward in life. And I'm not saying you didn't see mud people, but that's usually feeling stuck, where you're at in life. But the other thing about meditation is you could ask, before, if there's anything you really want to know, all you got to do is ask. But you have to ask in a specific way. For instance, that little meditation I gave you about being a spiritual being, you could follow it up with universe, higher consciousness. bring me the opportunities to best utilize my talents. Now, you see what you're asking for now? You're putting the wheels in motion. Show me how I can make a difference.
Right.
Stuff like that. And they have to be direct questions without any fear, hesitation, doubt. And you'll get the answers, believe me, in your dreams, or you'll come across somebody else that's going to help you, and so on. So
Right.
it's really about the communication and the meditation. The
Or
more
you'll see signs in your waking space, signs that just seem to point out, or it could be just what you just dreamt, and then boom, there it is.
exactly.
So follow the yellow brick road.
Exactly. Well, the energy that's shifting that the Mayans and the Hopis are talking about is an acceleration. And so time seems to be compressing, but our awareness and consciousness seems to be more, we could go beyond the physical even more. I mean, it's amazing now, and we've talked about this, Maria, that we have a thought or a desire for something, and it appears instantaneously the next day, the next hour, the next week.
Right.
It's like accelerating. So,
Right.
you know,
And you may ask, like a lot of people do ask me, they say, I see some signs, I don't know whether they're real, I don't know whether to trust it. The answer is, once you start following the yellow brick road, which is the best way I can explain it, the more you see that it is real, the more trust comes automatically. You just have to experience it enough times, and then you kind of just step into trust. You never stop questioning. You'll never question your intuition again. And that really is the strongest gift we all have, is our intuition.
absolutely.
Sense.
Yeah, our sixth sense.
Yes, exactly. But we probably have more than six, but we're not able to access them in this physical body because obviously we're confined. Everything in this universe is energy, Nathan. I'm sure you realize that.
Actually, no. Believe it or not, I'm very well versed in quantum physics. Everything is energy. Basic form is energy built up into different forms of matter. So
Fantastic. You got it. That's it. Exactly. That's the other thing that your generation seems to really grasp is science. It's like you grasp concepts very easily. Geometrical patterns, anything to do with computers. This is like a natural for you guys. It's just like it because you become like a part of it rather than trying to figure out how it works. It's just like it. It's like the instincts just override and you could do things very easily. So,
Right. So I like to give a tip to everybody watching this. When you question, is this me or is this my higher self? It's very simple to figure it out. If it sounds too smart to be you, it's your higher self.
right. And
That's it.
oh, absolutely. There's another thing. When you know something is right for you, there's a feeling in your stomach and in your chest that comes along with it. It's not like you have to guess after that. It's just like, I know this is the path. This is what I have to do. And you won't second guess it anymore. You won't have doubts about it anymore. So it's that first instinct that just feels right, and always trust it. That's the higher self, the higher consciousness, the heart. It knows that is the correct decision. And so that's how you do it. It's a learning curve. It's, like Maria said, you follow the yellow brick road. You see what's working. You fine tune the intuition. You fine tune the meditation. You fine tune it all. And before you know it, you're like, really aware of who you are and your abilities. And that's how it works.
Right. Because I've had so many people say to me, Maria, how do you really know when you've stepped into trust? And the only way I can explain it is when I was your age, I used to wonder, how will I know when I'm not young anymore? By society's definition of young. And I used to think, is it going to be when I'm 20? Is it going to be when I'm 30? But the truth of the matter is, I couldn't tell you when that happened. It just happened.
Mm-hmm.
And trust works the same way. It's not like, well, I worked my spiritual plan 6 hours today, am I in trust? No. Somewhere along the line, it happens. You're not even aware of it. But when you think about it, it happened. And it doesn't really matter when it happens, as long as it happens.
Right.
And it always happens. If you work your spiritual program, it's going to happen.
Exactly. Nathan, do you have any questions that you might have, or any suggestions you could make to others around your age, and anything that you want to share?
well, first of all, I'd like to just kind of add on to that as young people, it's kind of our duty and our right to get our opinions out there, to make it heard, to make sure that everyone knows we're not going to be confined anymore. We're not going to let ourselves be trapped in this or anything like that. And the only question I really have is what kind of advice you can give to make sure that none of us stay confined, what we can do to...
Okay. See this lovely computer in front of me that Maria has, that I have? This is our greatest gift at this time, because the technology to reach millions is incredible. Okay? And so utilize this technology, whether it's the smartphones, whether it's the computers. Get and connect with people around the world that are on the same level. Okay? Share the information. Join, groups online in your local communities and start reinforcing.
You can do a podcast. You can do a blog.
Do your own
he's
blog. Exactly. Right. I mean, some of the most popular videos on YouTube are some of the spiritual videos, where 100,000 hits, 1 million hits, and so on, talking about spiritual matters. And I'm not talking religion, because eventually, religion's not going to be around very much longer, And your generation will see it. We'll probably see it too. Maria, you're not going anywhere. I know that. So you'll probably see it too.
Oh, no.
The way you work out, no way. But so get with people that you connect with on this sort of higher consciousness, and begin to realize that who you are. You're spiritual beings. We're all spiritual beings. It's all energy, and get together to make a difference. And that's what this time frame is all about. It's revolting against the powers that shouldn't be. I'm sure Maria's filled you in on that. Right. And how we follow orders blindly in society, you see? So as we slowly continue, the momentum keeps building, your generation, and you'll be sort of incorporated with everyone else that's awake, and it'll just become more natural. To not want to eat animals, to, not want to kill and go into the military and be a trained killer and so on and so forth, you see? And that's what's going to happen. And your generation is leading the way, because none of you want to be a part of that, you see? So, but realize you came in here, you chose to come in here for a reason. This is an ascension process on this planet. That's the only way I can describe it.
Here it tells you where you're going next. And
right,
a lot of
exactly.
people aren't going anywhere pleasant after this.
Right.
So
Nathan, since you know everything is energy, the Earth is changing its vibration. And this is coming from the galactic center, this energy. And so you're here, I'm here, Maria's here, and everyone else listening out there is here to change the vibration just by being more awake and aware and more loving.
And non-participation is key. Yes. Don't fall for the bull crap that's out there.
Right.
Just say, no, I'm not going to spend my money on that. I'm not going to vote for that. I'm not going to eat that. I'm going to, be a voice for your generation. God knows you got the packaging. You're well spoken. So someone's got to do it. Might as well be you, because when Spirit told me my mission, I was like, why me? And the answer I got was 3 words. Why not you? Right. And that was the end of that conversation, and the rest was history.
Exactly. Wow, that's great. So anyway, we're going to wind down, and I appreciate you being on, Nathan, and sharing your experiences. And if you ever have any questions or anything, obviously you have Maria right there to chime in on. You got a great teacher in Maria, and just keep looking, just keep connecting with people of like mind, and research as much as you can. But the best thing you could do is just come to the realization of who you are. Don't question anymore. You're a being of light in a body, an infinite conscious being.
That's right.
So don't limit yourself. You see, and so that's the path you should take.
Okay. Well, again, I want to say thank you to both of you for even doing this show to try and help kids like me. So.
Well, we are helping kids like you. I don't believe in the word try.
You either do it or you don't. So.
Who else is going to do it?
Exactly.
Why me? Why not you? But I don't want people to feel as alone and have to struggle as hard as I did. Back in the 50s, where there was no one, and every Catholic in my neighborhood called me the Mala Christiana,
Oh,
which
yeah.
means Antichrist.
Nice.
So no child should have to go through that just because they're gifted. They shouldn't be labeled. They shouldn't be put on these drugs. They need to be encouraged. And if you're watching this and you want to join in the next call, great. If not, absolutely send us your stuff in email, because we're here to help. We're not charging for this. We're not getting rich on it. We're just doing it because we care about the next generation.
And well said, Maria. And with that, I want to thank everyone, and we'll see you guys soon. All right.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye.